Good evening, I'm Janet Peckinpaugh.
And I'm Terzi. Connecticut's chief forensic scientist, Dr. Henry Lee, is center stage at the O.J. Simpson trial.
Dr. Lee is the only witness on the stand in the L.A. courtroom tonight. We have team coverage as the Dream Team calls on Henry Lee to convince the jury that O.J. Simpson is innocent. We begin with Dennis House in L.A.
Janet, good afternoon from Los Angeles. Dr. Henry Lee is on the stand right now. He's been on the stand all day. In fact, he's been the only witness. He began this morning showing a picture of a pair of Ron Goldman's blood-soaked jeans. As the defense tries to prove its theory that there are two killers, Barry Scheck asked Dr. Lee if some prints on the jeans could have come from a shoe.
I cannot definitively say that's definite it should be, it could be.
Connecticut's world-renowned forensics expert interpreted more bloodstains for jurors today. Prints that the defense argues came from a second person at the crime scene, perhaps a second killer. Barry Scheck asked Dr. Lee if the prints could have come from an Italian shoe that prosecutors say O.J. Simpson was wearing on the night of the murders.
If this parallel line imprint comes from a shoe, could it be the Bruno Magli shoe? No. It would be some other shoe. If this is a shoe print, this is a different type of design than Bruno Magli.
Dr. Lee spent much of the morning explaining the physics of how blood drops fall. With the help of red ink, an eyedropper, and some white paper, Lee demonstrated how blood can drip, smear, or splatter.
If, say, a couple drops of blood on the surface, if a force applied to the surface, you're going to have certain so-called medium velocity pattern.
That experiment and the others were conducted just inches in front of the jury, and the jury members, at least from my vantage point, seemed to be paying quite a bit of attention. Janet?
Dennis, we hear you were the only Connecticut reporter in the courtroom today. Tell us about that.
That's right. It was an interesting experience. I was in there from 9 until noon, sat right behind Denise Brown. I was talking to Dominic Dunn and a few other players in the courtroom. As everybody has said, and it's almost a cliche, it looks smaller than it is. You know, in person it appears to be much bigger in TV, on TV, but it was interesting watching it. I think the viewers at home actually get to see more of what goes on in the courtroom in a sense, because a lot of those displays that you see on TV cannot be seen by most of the people in the courtroom, and I couldn't see any of the boards that we just showed on video. I had to wait until I got out and actually watch them on tape. But yeah, it was a fascinating experience, and the jury really paid close attention to Dr. Lee today. Toward the afternoon, they seemed a little bit bored. A couple of them had glazed eyes. A lot of this, the physics that he's talking about are very, very deep and very difficult to understand, and so it was difficult for them. Here's what's next. At 4 o'clock, well, Dr. Henry Lee is just about to wrap up testimony. He'll go till about 6:45 your time. Then at 4 o'clock, the lawyers will meet outside of the jury's presence to discuss a prosecution move to ban some of Dr. Lee's testimony on some blood swatch tests that he conducted over the past year. And the defense wants to admit those. The prosecution does not. In fact, Dr. Lee is kind of uncomfortable about testifying about those tests because he doesn't feel that they can be replicated. So we'll find out today just how much longer he'll be in the stand. At this point, we're told he'll be here till about Tuesday. Janet, back to you.